At the DMV, the clerk said, "You've been legally dead since Tuesday." The words hung in the fluorescent-lit air while around us people continued filling out forms, oblivious to the fact that I'd apparently died 4 days ago. Margaret, the clerk, turned her monitor toward me, showing my death certificate filed with the state, cause of death listed as cardiac arrest, signed by a doctor I'd never heard of. "This has to be a mistake," I said, my very alive heart pounding rapidly. "I'm standing right here." Margaret nodded sympathetically, probably used to database errors, but when she tried to override the system, she discovered this wasn't a glitch. Someone had filed official paperwork with the county coroner, the Social Security Administration, and the State Vital Records Office. According to every government database, I died at 3:47 p.m. last Tuesday at Riverside Hospital. The implications hit immediately. My bank accounts would be frozen. My insurance policies would pay out. My credit cards would be canceled. I pulled out my phone to check my banking app, but my login had already been deactivated. My credit card was declined when I tried to pay for a coffee on the way home. I was financially dead, digitally erased, a ghost in the bureaucratic machine. My wife Patricia seemed shocked when I told her, immediately calling our lawyer while I sat there wondering how to prove I was alive. The lawyer, Harrison, said he'd seen this once before with identity theft, but when he pulled the death certificate, his tone changed. "This is sophisticated," he said slowly. "Whoever did this had access to your medical records, your social security number, even your mother's maiden name. They knew exactly which forms to file and in what order to avoid triggering fraud alerts." The death certificate listed details that were disturbingly accurate. My blood type, my birth hospital, even an old appendectomy scar. The doctor who'd signed it, Dr. Robert Nguyen, turned out to be real, practicing at Riverside Hospital with an impeccable reputation. When we contacted him, he was adamant he'd never signed my death certificate, had never even heard my name before. The investigation revealed something chilling. Security footage from Riverside Hospital showed someone who looked exactly like me being wheeled into the emergency room last Tuesday, apparently in cardiac arrest. The paramedics, the nurses, even Dr. Nguyen on the footage, all worked desperately to save this person before pronouncing them dead at 3:47 p.m. The body was claimed by Patricia, according to the records, and cremated the next day. But I'd been at work last Tuesday, with dozens of witnesses. Patricia had been with me that evening, having dinner at our favorite restaurant. We had receipts, credit card records, even a selfie from that night. Someone had created an elaborate fake death using a body double or possibly deepfake technology, then processed it through official channels. The real shock came when forensic accountants examined what happened after my death. Within hours of the certificate being filed, someone had attempted to claim my life insurance policy, worth $2 million. The beneficiary request had come from Patricia, except Patricia hadn't filed it. Someone was impersonating both of us, attempting to steal my death benefits while I was still alive. Detective Morrison's investigation uncovered a sophisticated crime ring specializing in killing people on paper, then claiming their benefits before anyone noticed. They targeted me because I had substantial life insurance but no children. Fewer people to immediately contest the death. The woman impersonating Patricia had been recorded at the insurance office, wearing a wig and makeup to match my wife's appearance. The cremation had been real, but the body wasn't mine. The ring had been using unclaimed bodies from morgues, people with no families to ask questions. They'd murdered a homeless man who roughly matched my description, then used him as my corpse. Dr. Nguyen's signature had been forged using samples from his legitimate paperwork. The entire scheme would have worked if I hadn't needed to renew my driver's license. The criminals were arrested attempting to cash the insurance check at an overseas bank. The ringleader, Anthony Morrison, had killed 17 people over 3 years, stealing over $20 million in insurance payouts. Most victims didn't discover their deaths for weeks or months, by which time the money was gone. Some never recovered their legal status, remaining dead in government systems for years. Reversing my death took 6 months of legal battles. Every agency required different proof of life, from fingerprints to DNA tests to in-person appearances before judges. My credit was destroyed, my mortgage went into default before we could prove I was alive to make payments, and my employer had to formally rehire me after terminating a dead employee. The psychological impact was worse than the bureaucratic nightmare. Being dead while alive created an existential crisis that therapy barely touched. I'd seen how quickly the world moved on, how easily I could be erased, how fragile my existence was in the digital age. Patricia couldn't sleep for months, haunted by footage of herself claiming my body that she'd never claimed. Today, 3 years later, I still check my vital status monthly, paranoid that someone might kill me again on paper. I carry multiple forms of identification, keep notarized proof of life documents, and maintain video logs proving my continued existence. Once you've been dead, you never quite trust being alive again. The ring that killed me is in prison, but the vulnerability they exposed remains. We exist as much in databases as in reality, and sometimes the database is easier to kill.